What's going on, everybody? Hixel Bay here, coming at you with the last video of the year. So thank you for joining in. 2024 has been a great year for roguelike games, so I wanted my last video of the year to showcase my favorite games I've played over 2024. So hopefully you're excited for that. I will have a list of top 5 games of my choice, and that will come after showcasing a couple of honorable mentions. So hopefully that sounds good to you guys. Just a couple of notes on how I formatted the video. The honorable mentions we'll start with, and those are listed in alphabetical order, so those will not be ranked. And some of these games weren't exactly released in 2024. Some of them were released earlier on early access, but entered version 1.0 in 2024, or some of them had their demo released in 2024, but aren't released yet. But they were too good not to mention, so they're appearing in the list in the honorable mentions. And yeah, we'll start with that. After that, we'll move into the top 5 games of the year. And these games were all released in 2024 and they actually are ranked. So yeah, with that, I will leave you with the first game. I hope you enjoy. All right, and to start us off on our honorable mentions list is Ammossum. This is a really strong first entry. This is an action roguelike shooter with a great inventory management system. The combat looks simple on the surface because all it is enemies coming from the right hand side, and you don't want to let them through on the left hand side or you'll lose health. But I promise you, this is not as simple as it seems. There's some layers and complexity here that you can fall in love with, and that's going to lie within their weapon system. So after each battle and through the shopping hub as well, you'll gather materials which you'll use to upgrade weapons, evolve those weapons, and also build new components. And in this game, you can essentially attach any type of projectile to another projectile. And so if you play your cards right, you're going to be able to chain a lot of different elements together and become an absolute cowboy god in this game. And I really do love this part of the game. I love this attack crafting, sequence crafting type of mechanic in games. And this game has really been impressive from each iteration of the demo that I have seen, and I followed all of them for the last year. So yeah, this one is not out yet. There is a demo that you can try, so if you're interested, definitely go try it out. This one is one to watch for sure. Next up on the list is Cowboy 3030. Coincidentally, another Western themed game for our list here, but anyways, this is a really fun third-person shooter action roguelike with really interesting mechanics that separate it out from the other games in the same genre. The first thing that I'll mention is the different characters that you can play as. Each has their own active and passive abilities, and the most interesting part are the passive abilities for me. A lot of them relate to how the character reloads or how they move, which has added a lot of different layers to how you play this game with the different characters. For example, my favorite character, Calyx, anytime he needs to reload, you need to hit a sequence of arrow keys in the right order so that you can reload faster. So if you play things right with him, you can reload extremely quickly and never stop shooting. So that's just one example of how the characters can change the gameplay. The other things that make this game interesting are the bullet dodge mechanics. Enemies will shoot red and blue bullets. You can dash through red bullets to avoid damage, but you cannot dash through blue bullets, so you have to absolutely get out of the way, which again adds a layer of engagement for the player. And also the level up grid looks pretty cool. It's kind of like a Final Fantasy point system, buy stuff on the grid to get the bonus type of thing, but there's some really cool upgrades that they have thrown for each character that are unique to them, and I've seen a lot of cool stuff from this mechanic as well. But yeah, I really love this game, and I think it deserves a little bit more love than what I've seen so far online. Next on the list is Dungeon Clawler, and let me tell you, from the first second that I watched the trailer on Steam, I knew I was going to fall in love with this game, and boy did they deliver. So essentially, this is a claw machine game with RPG elements, and the game is already fun to play the claw machine just for that reason. I do like the gambling of seeing items in a claw machine and trying to grab what I want, but behind those claw machine mechanics, they've implemented a really great deck builder here. So they have items that you will add to your deck, and your deck items will show up in the claw machine for future battles. And these items will do anything from, you know, doing your basic attacks or giving you some basic defense, but they've really leaned into some interesting mechanics where the items can affect the way that items will react in the claw machine itself, or picking it up will do something if you pick it up in a certain order. They've really leaned into their unique aspects of the game, and I really like that about this game. Now, I don't actually own this game, so that might be the reason why it's not in the top 5, but I've had enough time in the demo and enough love for this game that I know it should appear somewhere. So here it is on the honorable mentions. Yeah, this one is absolutely a blast to play. Next up on the list, we're staying on the gambling theme with Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. This is a roguelike deck building game that uses blackjack for combat. With each fight, what will happen is you and your opponent will draw cards to your hand and try to get as close to 21 as possible without going over. If you go over, you automatically get a 0 for your value instead for that round. At the end of each round, damage is dealt based on the difference in the two numbers drawn between the two players. If you're the losing hand and your value is lower, you will still block that value in damage from your opponent. But like mentioned before, if you go over 21 and bust, your value is at 0 and you won't block any damage at all. So it's very important that you make sure that you do not go over 21, whether you are the winning or losing hand. And that has added some interesting gameplay for this one. Now, where this game really shines is going to be through its card design and card effects. And they've really thought outside of the box here, guys. I don't even know what to mention in such a short amount of time, but the card effects can do anything from affecting the current count of your hand, the way that you draw, the way that the enemy will play their cards, or it might implement a change in the future for the whole combat. It's just really crazy. They've thought about a lot of things, and everything is so well crafted. They have references for the card design, such as, you know, Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering cards, tarot cards, real life events like birthday cards, Valentine's Day cards, stuff like that. So they have some really well crafted ideas in here, and everything works so well. Yeah, I just really can't say enough about this one. I don't actually own it, but I got enough experience from the demo, which is still available, by the way, to know that it needs to appear somewhere on this list. So here it is. Coming up next is Pogo Rogue, which is an amazing game that was made by a group of students at the University of Utah for their capstone project. I believe they've all graduated, but they're still updating the game, and it just left early access recently with a huge amount of updates. This is a action roguelike game with a lot of platforming mechanics. You'll play as a pogo that shoots bullets outside of the bottom of the pogo, so where it bounces, and you'll have two guns, and as you shoot, it will propel you upwards, and that's a lot of the mechanics for movement. And you'll also use those bullets, of course, to kill things. So the way that you reload your gun is you'll need to bounce on a wall or a floor, and you can also reload your gun after you kill an enemy. So there's a lot of interesting movement mechanics and offensive mechanics because you're using shooting for both your movement and your offensive capability. And you'll also pivot the pogo so that every time you bounce, you're going to go in that particular direction. I haven't seen as many happy accidents in any game ever outside of Pogo Rogue. There's a lot of crazy stuff that can happen. And yeah, this game is really great because of the boss fights too. Some of the most interesting boss fights that I've ever seen. And one thing that I can't believe about this game is that it's completely free to play. They are not charging anything for this. I encourage all of you to go and play this game. You gotta give it a try. It's so fun. And if you can get into it, there's a pretty large amount of gameplay hours that you can put into this game if you want to be completionist. So yeah, completely free to play. Go try it if you like the way it looks. Next up, we have Shape of Dreams, which is an action roguelike game that plays much like a MOBA game. So imagine if you took the control scheme of League of Legends and threw that into a action roguelike game. That's essentially what we're seeing here in terms of the way that you control your character and how you fight during battle. But in this game, you'll choose a character to start off with. each character will have their own archetype, of course. So you have your ranged character, your tank, your magic caster, that type of thing. But from there, what you'll do is you'll enter the dream and you'll collect memories. Memories are your active abilities, and you can have the freedom to swap out them freely. You can even replace your original ones if you really don't like them, but I don't suggest that. And through these memories, you can really customize the way that you play your character. On top of that, there are these items called concepts. Concepts are basically augmentations or gems that you can put on your active skills to have those skills do additional effects. So this is going to give you further freedom to customize the way that you play your character or how you perform in battle. And this is a really, really unique and interesting mechanic in this game that I've really enjoyed for sure. Now, this game is currently still in development. It's not fully released yet, but there is a huge prologue that they're offering for free right now on Steam. A lot of content to go through there, and I would totally suggest it, especially if you're into stuff like League of Legends or other MOBAs like that, and you're also into roguelikes. This is a perfect combination of both, and I really, really love it, and can't wait to see more from this in the next year. Next up, we are looking at Spiritfall. Now, Spiritfall has been available for a while now through early access, but it recently just upgraded to version 1.0 and left early access, so I want to throw it on this list because I think that it's massively, massively underrated, and it deserves a little bit more attention than it has gotten, in my opinion. So here it is. So this is a game that is essentially Hades, but it's a platform fighter instead, a 2D platform fighter. So you're going to collect blessings in the same way. After each battle, you have a deity that will offer you a list of rewards. You can assign these perks to each of your attack types. So your basic attack, heavy attack, special type, that type of thing. And also there's passive upgrades as well that you can get from each deity through a blessing as well. But it's really, really well crafted. I swear it is not just a clone of Hades. They've done a really good job with the different weapon types that change the gameplay massively. Each of the deities do offer some pretty unique boons or some unique perks to the character, and the battles themselves are just so satisfying to play through. So I've really, really enjoyed the combat in this one, although I'm usually not a platform fighter game player. I'm not really good at them typically, but this one has been super fun. And they even have these rift stages where it's a special stage where you actually will fight almost like a Super Smash Bros. Combat. And I wish there was more of this, to be honest with you, but I'll take what I can. I really do like these fights a lot for some reason. But anyways, yeah, Spiritfall has been a game that I've played through the year for sure, and I hope to see more from them in the future, and I encourage you to try it. And that was our list of honorable mentions. We will move on to the top 5 now. And remember, these will be ranked from number 5 to number 1. Number 1 being my top favorite game of the year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this segment of the video as well, and I'll see you at the end. Starting off with number 5 is Emberdrift. Emberdrift is a game by Viva Desca Games, and it's a platforming action roguelike. It has addicting gameplay, and it's backed up with a great soundtrack. Now with this game, what you'll do is you'll play as a character and you can Ember Drift using the right click on your mouse. What this will do is it will empower your slide so that you can defeat your enemies, and also it will give you a speed boost and a jump boost, so basically overall a movement boost as well. So you kind of want to be Ember Drifting most of the time, which is adrenaline pumping and is super satisfying once you learn how to do it right. I won't say that I have yet, but I'm having fun while trying to learn for sure. Now in this game, you definitely want to be quick and agile because there's a combo mechanic that is very, very important for several reasons. So the combo will first of all give you more money so that you can buy things to become more powerful throughout the game. The combo will also empower your character based on the items that you have in your inventory, so there's also a lot of benefit for it there. And throughout the game, what you'll also pick up are weapons. Now, you'll actually only get to choose one weapon for your run, but the weapons are super, super diverse. they will of course give you a way to attack, so you'll either be slashing with a melee weapon, or if you pick up a gun then you'll be shooting some type of bullet. But the more interesting thing that it will give you is a movement skill that will completely change the way that you can move around the map. So there's some simple skills that will give you like a blink or a dash, but there are some weapons that will completely change your movement once activated. So there's a lot of variety in the gameplay just based on the weapon that you choose throughout the run. And you can also upgrade the weapon as well to make sure that its offensive capabilities are allowing you to survive through the super interesting boss fights. The boss fights have been a really enjoyable part of the game because it mixes that platforming, bullet hell type of action roguelike, and you're just trying to survive and trying to keep up with the scaling of the bosses with the choices that you've made throughout your run. Now, each new biome has new objects to drift on, and they introduce new mechanics, and this is also a very high point of the game. However, I can't speak too much on it because I'm not super good at platforming games in general, and this one is no different. And so I've only seen 2 biomes, but I think there's 5 of them, and I can't wait to see what it has to offer for the future biomes once I get there. But I think it goes really far to say that I'm not good at this game, but I keep coming back to it. It's this very sweet balance of frustration and I'm gonna get it next time type of feeling. So if you haven't tried it yet, I definitely suggest checking out Emberdrift. It's one of my favorite games of the year, and that's why you're seeing it here. And yeah, I really think everyone should give it a try at least once. Coming in at number 4 is The Last Flame. Now this is a strategic auto chess / auto battler party building type of roguelike game, and with each run you're going to recruit a group of heroes to fight the battles for you, and in each battle what you'll have to do is place each of your heroes on the field, and then after you're done with that you'll let the battle play out from there. And with this is where the strategy comes into play. You'll want to place your heroes in the best spot so that your party doesn't get wiped out. So for example, you'll probably want the tanks closest to the enemies in the starting position so that your DPS units stay safe and they can do damage to survive. But of course, it's not that simple for every single fight. They do throw some forks in the road for you, especially with the boss fights, which have some unique challenges to your team on their own. And so there are a lot of different unique events and different obstacles that you'll have to face, and you'll really have to be prepared for anything by the end of the run. Now, to do this, what you'll have to do is recruit the heroes that you want to use in your team, like I said before. Each of the heroes have their own special abilities that will have their own archetype bonuses, such as scaling with specific upgrades or positioning, or using specific items that will really help them with each of the battles and help your team out in some type of way. There's over 50 heroes right now, I think, and yeah, all of them are very unique in their own right, and I can't say enough about these heroes. They really make the game, and you really have to see it for yourself to understand the depth that they have really implemented in the game just based on the heroes. On top of the heroes, you will also equip them with items. To start off, you'll get some items that just give them basic stat upgrades like attack, defense stats, that type of thing. But what makes the item system unique for The Last Flame is the recipe items. So recipes will be combined or forged into your regular items and give those items unique effects. And these are also a huge component of the game because it will supplement anything that you're possibly missing from your team, or it can just make completely broken characters if you have the right legendary recipes. The item choices in this game are fantastic. There are some epic and legendary recipes that can totally and completely change the tide of battle. I've been through some runs where I was struggling, and then all of a sudden I got 2 new items that were perfect for my team, and then all of a sudden we're godlike. So I've really come to appreciate the variety and the intensity of the items offered in this game, and it really does make this one a great one to play if you're into these strategic auto chess or auto battler type of games. Now throughout the game, you can help yourself by choosing the right path on the map so that you can try to grab specific rewards or fight specific battles, but really it's still a mix of strategy and praying to the RNG gods to get the right things throughout your run. In this game, you have your flame, which is your health, and the flame is going to deplete whenever the unit dies or any of your units die, and you'll lose additional flame when your team wipes out. Now, the game isn't over if your team wipes out, but you of course want to preserve that flame for the tougher fights throughout the run of the dungeon. However, if you are confident enough, you can also use that flame for additional bonuses like re-rolling on items, or you can use them in several different events as well. So they've implemented high risk, high reward through this flame system, as well as serving as our health system as well for the game. Now, I will admit that I don't actually own a copy of The Last Flame. I've only played the demo and also the beta test that I was invited to. But between those two versions of the game, which were really early versions of the game, I had sunk 300 hours into the beta test and demo. So already, just based on the amount of hours that I was able to put into an early version of the game, I think that it deserves a spot on this list here. They've only added more heroes and more items into the current version of the game. They haven't left early access yet, but I know for sure if I did have this game in my possession, there would be hundreds of hours spent in there just experimenting with more of the heroes, more of the items that they have added, and just trying to beat the game on the hardest difficulty, which is something that I was chasing on the beta test. And was able to achieve after those hundreds of hours of experimenting. But yeah, I'm really excited for this game and I can't wait for more of it. Coming in at number 3 is Card-en-Ciel. This is a deck building roguelike game, and the first thing that drew me to this game was the visual design of how the combat works. So at first look, it looks like a Mega Man Battle Network or a One Step from Eden clone if you've played those games, but the battle works a lot differently than both of those games, which really was a huge surprise to me that I really enjoyed. So the cards in this game, they're not only used for attacking, but you'll also have to use the same cards for movement. So you can either use a card to attack, or you can kind of discard the card to move in a specific direction that is indicated on the card. So there's some complexity and some layers for how you battle in this game based on just that mechanic. On top of those mechanics, CardonC also offers other mechanics that make this a very unique experience. I don't have enough time in this video to go too far in depth, but just to kind of briefly go over them. You can attack your enemies in 2 different ways. So they have a health meter, which is their HP, as any game would really have. But there's also a break meter that you can try to focus on, where if you break the enemy, they can't move, they can't attack, and while they're broken, you'll also do double damage to them. So it's something that you should probably implement into your strategy at some point. And also they have your regular deck building synergies, such as discarding cards with effects, or banishing cards, holding cards, that type of thing. And with all these mechanics mixed together, I have seen the craziest one-turn combos that I have ever seen in a deck builder game ever. It's really crazy how much freedom that they give you through these cards, because the cards themselves have their own synergies with their basic effects, I'll call them. So they have their standard effects on the card already, but you can also enhance any card to have a new effect, allowing you absolute freedom to create broken cards. So let's just say you have a regular attack card, but you want to add some movement to it, or you want to add a discard effect to it. You can absolutely do that through these enhancements, and you can have up to 3 per card, and every copy of that card in your deck gets the same enhancements. So it really does encourage you to think critically, but also have the payout of having absolute broken turns by just infinitely cycling through your deck and having infinite energy to do whatever you like. So I've really enjoyed that about this game. And yeah, I guess at this point I'll move on to the visual design. I'm not a huge fan of the over-the-top anime aesthetic where there's just a bunch of cute characters bouncing around with their, large assets, if you know what I mean. But I'm willing to forgive the visual design for this game and just kind of push it to the side because the gameplay is so good and so enjoyable. And once again, I will have to admit that I don't actually own a full copy of this game yet, but I've poured over 100 hours into the demo version of the game, which is still available, by the way. And so with the amount of time that I've already poured into the demo, I know that the full version of the game is going to be even better and have even more content for me to experiment with and try out. And I'm really excited for that time to come. I know for sure once this game is in my possession, it's one of those games that I'm going to do a completionist run with it. So just try to do everything I can in the game, beat every dungeon on every difficulty. And so yeah, I know that this one has a lot of game time to offer for somebody that's looking for a good deck building roguelike. Coming in at number 2 is Bioweaver. This one comes from a team called Ember Drift, who I have been a huge fan of for a long time. A couple of years ago, they put out a game called Bioprototype, and I put Bioprototype on my top games of the year last year, so it was only appropriate to put Bioweaver on this list because it is an upgraded version of Bioprototype. So this is a dungeon crawling game where you'll go through the dungeon and kill enemies and farm their organs, and as you're farming organs, you can use those organs on your creature for future battles. So there is attack crafting or sequence crafting in here. You'll use the organs, which all have their own effects for generating quote-unquote mana and also performing attacks for your creature that you are creating. And so there is this crafting element that I really like in these roguelike games. You'll have your organs. You can also mutate the organs in this game. The mutations are going to be RNG based, where you can use these little potions or these little solutions to add additional random effects to your parts or your organs. Now, each organ has its limitations on how many times you can mutate it. So what you'll want to do is kind of roll the dice on a particular piece of equipment. And if you don't get what you want or what you need from it, you're gonna have to go into the dungeon and farm some more of that organ so that you can try to get the mutations that you want in it. So there's a lot of replayability there, but there's still other reasons to keep farming, because in this game, organs can also show up as special versions of themselves called replicas, and these replicas will have mutations on them that you cannot obtain from mutating. So there's a lot of reasons to go back in and farm. The game also offers a gene mechanic. So genes are essentially different pieces of equipment that you will use for passive effects. So more movement speed, more attack damage, or the genes themselves can relate to a specific attack type as well. So there's a lot of planning that you can do through the gene pool. And yeah, I just really love this game for how much customizability that you have with the creature that you're hopefully creating a killing machine out of. It has great pixel design, huge amount of replayability, which really plays towards the experimental vibe of the whole game because you're in this lab creating this killing machine creature thing. So I just think that it's really well done, and I really hope that they keep putting out more for the game, and just more attack types, more organ types, more enemy types, more dungeon levels, that type of thing. But I could spend hours in this game just experimenting with what's already in here already. Another great thing about this game is the price of it. It's really well priced. It's only a couple of bucks, so some pocket change, and you can own this game. I think it's like $5 US for it. And if you're into this sequence crafting or this attack crafting type of mechanic, you'll definitely get dozens of hours just trying to farm the right parts and experimenting with them. So if you're into that, I totally think it's worth the price. And I can't say enough about this game. I really love it. And here we are at the end of the video. We're about to reveal my top game of the year. This one is so fun to play. I think it's going to be a hit with anybody who tries it. And that game is Ballionaire. Over the last year, we have seen our fair share of these carnival game or gambling games that have influenced these roguelikes. But there's something about Ballionaire that they've done so perfectly that I really think that is the king of gambling and chance roguelikes, but also for this year, my top pick for the roguelike genre. It is just so exciting and fun to play. It's super, super engaging. It has the deck building elements that have you sit there and think about what you're doing at the same time, but you know, the basis of the game is also getting lucky with your drops on the map, and it's just a really, really great combination of strategy and RNG. In Ballionaire, you'll have a board where you're going to fill each space with a trigger or a bumper of some sort, and each of these triggers and bumpers will have their own effects. Each turn, you're going to drop a ball, and whatever it hits, it will earn you money, hopefully, which will contribute towards the tribute of that current round. So it is a resource management game where you're going to need to make the amount for tribute before the end of each round, or you're going to lose the game. After each ball drop, what you'll have the chance to do is draft a new trigger that you can put on your board. And these triggers are such a huge component of the game, and there is so much variety in the triggers that you have a choice from choosing from. I think they have over 100 in the game right now, and no bumper is the same. No trigger is the same. I don't have enough time to really go through all the different various effects that we have in the game right now, but there are triggers that will give you money when bumped, or they will spawn more balls. They can hold things so that you earn money in different ways, or they can change the way that the board works completely with the different combinations. And with the variety that we have with the triggers offered, we will never see the same run. And they just have a really, really cool way of unlocking new items. They have this vending machine. It's like a gachapon machine. And for some reason, I just really, really enjoy the way that they've implemented the unlocking system, which is additional points in the positive direction for Ballionaire here. But I would say the most enjoyable part of the game is seeing the different maps that they have. Now, each of these maps are extremely different from each other. They are completely changing the game with each different iteration. And so it will change the way that the ball drops or the way that you can place your triggers. Sometimes the map itself will move as well. Currently, my favorite map is the pinball machine one, where you'll place your triggers near the top and then you'll have flippers at the bottom, and you have a limited number of flips per turn. And this is just such a surprise to me. I couldn't have imagined this map existing when I played the demo version of Ballionaire, but when I saw it, I knew this is a game that is on its own league or in a different league. It just made the game so much better seeing that they went this creative and implemented something so fun. I can't wait to see what other things they'll throw at us in different versions. And for those of you who are min-max type gamers that just want to max out the game or break games, that's definitely a possibility, and they will give you the tools to do that. There's a lot of different things in the menu that will tell you how everything is performing or what exactly is happening. So that's a really, really great feature for those of you who are that type of gamer. And yeah, Ballionaire, top game of the year. Every time I boot this game up, I have an absolute blast playing it, and you will definitely see more of it on the channel in the coming months for sure. If you join in on stream, I'm usually hopping in for a game or two, and yeah, it's so enjoyable every single time. I have such a great time with this one. And there you have it. Those are my top games of 2024 with Ballionaire on the top spot. Let me know what you guys think about the list. Let me know if you agree with it, disagree with it. If there's any other games that you think should be in the list, please let me know in a comment down below. Really interested to see what you guys have been playing throughout the year and fell in love with as well. And I already can hear some comments coming through about some particular games that you're surprised not to see. I'll start with Hades 2. I know Hades 2 is not on the list, but it deserves a spot on the list for sure. It's a fantastic game, but I just felt that everyone already knows about Hades 2, and I wanted to shine more of a light on other indie games that people might not know about, so that's why I didn't include it. So I cheated a little bit there. The other game that I think people will be thinking about is Balatro, and that game looks great, but I actually haven't played it. I don't think there was a demo of it. I don't own it, so I couldn't include it in the list because I haven't played it yet, but people are going crazy over Balatro. I know that it's probably a really, really good game that should be on this list, but I couldn't include it because I haven't played it yet. So hopefully you guys don't hate me too much for that. I apologize if that offended you in any way, not having those two games. I don't know why it would offend you, but anyways, I'll digress. the other thing that I want to mention at the end of the video here is just how much I enjoyed making this video. So this video gave me the chance to kind of rewind the clock and just look at the roguelike genre and the community as a whole. So my thoughts on it are that I'm really happy that we're moving past that phase where everyone was just kind of making a Vampire Survivors clone type of thing. Everyone just saw the success of a Survivor like game, and there were so many entering the market. I think there's still a lot entering the market, but we're moving past that. And 2024, we have seen a lot more complex and diverse mechanics being added to the roguelike idea. So I'm really happy about that. We've seen a lot of arcade or carnival game or gambling type game roguelikes as well. So just merging those type of games with the roguelike genre, and I'm really really happy with that, because with roguelike games you're always relying on luck or RNG a little bit, and then with the carnival game or gambling game as a foundation for these roguelikes, it just exaggerates that a little bit more, and I'm enjoying it so far. But we'll see what 2025 has for us. I wonder what kind of evolution we're going to see for this type of game or the roguelike genre in general. And so I hope you guys are as excited as I am, because we're going to definitely see a lot more games in the next year, even more than this year, hopefully. So, yeah, hoping that you guys all had a great holiday season. Wishing you all a happy new year, and I will see you in 2025. Bye.